Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're taking valuable time away for this webinar, which I promise you will be well worth your while, not only in your insurance or advising business, but in your life, because the skills that I'm going to teach you will impact all of these things. I'm Dr. Jack Singer, and today's webinar is 3 proven psychological secrets to quickly supercharge your sales success. So that's what we're going to focus on today, and let's get into it. First of all, would it surprise you to know that sales disappointments, when you fail at sales, are not caused by procrastinating or avoiding making cold calls? It's not caused by fear of rejection. It's not caused by competition or direct sales via the internet. It's not caused by a lack of product knowledge, and it's not caused by negative stereotypes. Maybe you're confused by that. You think, well, all of these things would impact my performance. But believe it or not, none of these things cause disappointing sales results. We'll learn the exact causes of sales disappointments in this webinar and how you can quickly reverse that process by first recognizing the habits that have led to it and then reverse the process. You know, as renowned basketball coach John Wooden once said, failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be. And so recognizing what is really causing disappointing sales results and how to change, which is the key determinant, will lead to your success. Now, how do you know if this workshop is for you? This webinar is for you? Well, first of all, are you worried about whether you can really succeed in this career? Does your stress level increase with you when you think about prospecting? Do you blame yourself for your lack of success? Do you wonder why colleagues with less experience actually produce more? Have you thought about giving up your career, but you're embarrassed? You don't know what to say to people, and you wouldn't know what to do in that case if that even happened. So if you answered yes to any one of these questions, then obviously this workshop is perfect for you. So here's an overview of what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn what really causes sales disappointments, what really causes sales reluctance, 3 proven psychological secrets to overcome all of the obstacles to your success, and then I have a bunch of bonuses. Bonus number 1, I will actually give you my game-changing book, The Financial Advisor's Ultimate Stress Mastery Guide, as a gift to you. You'll stick around till the end, you'll learn how you can get it. Number 2, you'll learn how my unique client event, which is called How to Live Much Longer Than Your Kids Hoped You Would, funny title for a serious subject, the psychology of life extension. Can imagine how that would pack the house for your clients and bring in all kinds of guests to become new clients, moving directly to you. Bonus 3, if you want to open more doors and close more business, you can earn 12 continuing education credits, which you need anyway, plus get a major discount by being on this workshop, this webinar today, with my game-changing e-course, How to Quickly Develop the Mindset of a Champion Insurance Producer. Bonus 4, July 1st, there's a major insurance WebEx super flash sale coming. You'll get notified of that with all kinds of discounts on all kinds of bonus information. And it'll include a masterclass for me at a fraction of its normal price. The masterclass will go one step farther than this webinar does to show you a template for exactly how you can accomplish what you want to. And the last bonus is a free consultation with me, absolutely free. You can discuss any question you have, any problem you have, and we will go through it without charge to you at all, because my goal is just to help you to boomerang and catapult your career. Again, I'm Dr. Jack Singer. For those of you who have not heard any of my webinars before, let me give you a brief background. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not an insurance producer. No, I'm a professional sports psychologist who works with financial professionals. I've been doing that since 2008. And when I decided that I could teach financial professionals the same blueprint for success that I've taught to Olympic gold medal winners, to professional football players, you name it, that's what I do. I pivoted my career actually in 2008 and started focusing exclusively on financial professionals. And I believe, just like with athletes, everybody has the power and the potential to be a champion, a superstar, but those belief systems, those undermining potentials are often covered over by lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, fear of failure, what will other people say, things like that. So my goal is to help bring that real champion out from each one of you. And through my webinars and master classes, keynote presentations, my individual confidential mentoring and coaching, I teach people how to release the champion that lies within, which is the real key to all of your success. So this is a real game changer. You're all gifted. Let's figure out how to use those gifts and bring your A table to your A game to the table every day. I'm also the author of the Financial Advisor's Ultimate Stress Mastery Guide. And as I mentioned earlier, each one of you that sticks around till the end, I'll show you how you can get an absolutely complimentary, with my compliments, free copy of this game-changing book. And I'll explain all of that later. So let's get ready to go to the next slide. And by the way, if you ever have questions during this, please fill in the Q&A. I will get to as many questions as I can, because I want to make sure you leave here without any doubt about how you can get to the next step and what you can start doing. So feel free to put questions into the Q&A. So the next question is how my training differs from traditional sales training that you've received. As you know, traditional sales training focuses on skill sets for prospecting, how to handle objections, closings, etc. That's all important, but it misses the main point. You've been bombarded with this training and you're still struggling to reach your dreams. So obviously it must be missing the main point. And here's the main point. Traditional sales training ignores how to develop a winner's mindset, which absolutely is necessary for your success. The condition in which you find yourself right now, right as we're speaking now, is the sum total of what you've been thinking about on a daily basis as it applies to your career. Through your internal conversations and self-talk, your attitudes are formed and your attitudes determine your behaviors. That little sentence or paragraph is the key to everything. The internal conversations you have always determine whether you're going to be successful or not successful in your career and in your sales in particular. Here's the key to understanding your sales performance. Sales performance equals your sales knowledge plus your selling skill sets minus distractions. What do you mean, Dr. Jack? What do you mean by minus distractions? The negative mindset and toxic self-talk that goes on in your head are the major distractions that will actually subtract from your ability that you already have developed through your sales knowledge and your sales skill sets. So that's the key. How do we get rid of these distractions, or at least keep them minimized? That is the key to the whole thing. And my goal here is to give you something memorable and repeatable that you can put into immediate use in your career. I'll also give you some complimentary goodies that I mentioned before. I'll tell you about how to get them at the end, including the book. But let me begin this journey, ladies and gentlemen, with a client of mine. We'll call him Steve. He was ready to actually quit the insurance business. Steve had been challenged in his insurance career for many years, and when he was referred to me, he was just about ready to quit the business. He handled 4 of the 5 basic challenges that are inherent in the insurance sales career. He put the time into marketing and prospecting. He made contacts and set appointments. He was good at fact-finding. He seemed comfortable handling objections, but he struggled to close sales. Steve was discouraged because he wasn't as successful as one of his office colleagues, Michael. When Steve put in much more time and effort, he seemed to have a better work ethic than Michael seemed to, and Michael's book of business and new referrals grew much faster than Steve's. That was very discouraging to Steve and disheartening. Steve felt like a failure, and he felt helpless to right the ship. He felt as if he didn't have the talent to succeed, and he felt hopeless that anything would change to make him more successful. Hopeless until he found me, that is. The most important discovery I made with Steve was that he was constantly engaged in negative, self-defeating, self-limiting conversations in his head concerning sales and his lack of success. Well, we'll learn how Steve overcame this issue and catapulted his career and his success as we go through the webinar. Essentially, Steve followed the exact same blueprint for success that we're talking about today. The same blueprint I've used with Olympic gold medal winners. The same blueprint I've used with professional athletes. The same blueprint that helps people develop the champion that resides within. Today's workshop, ladies and gentlemen, will be focused on the most researched and well-established psychological factors that lead to either success or failure in business. That's right. It's either going to be successful or it's going to be a failure. And this is all based on the conversations that you have in your head about events in which you find yourself. Whenever you have a sales experience or event, you fall back on your thinking habits, which are so often toxic and self-limiting rather than healthy. Your thinking habits are based on toxic iceberg belief patterns. Now, why do I call them iceberg belief patterns? Because like an iceberg, you're really only aware of a small portion of these habitual beliefs. The bulk of them lie below the surface dangerously in your subconscious mind. These are the things we need to bring to the surface so you can begin to change them and eradicate them. So secret number one is to recognize your toxic self-limiting beliefs and self-talk. I've given you a couple of examples here. I need to be liked by everyone or I feel like a failure. So many people have that belief system and it's ridiculous. Nobody can be liked by everyone, and certainly don't feel like a failure if someone doesn't like you or appreciate you, or a client who's not interested. That should not make you feel like a failure. I'm not as good at this as everyone thinks I am. That's what we call the imposter fear. I have a whole section of that in my book, The Imposter Fear, where people believe that they're not really as good as everyone else thinks they are, and it's only a matter of time before someone will figure that out. If I can't predict an outcome, I should probably avoid the situation. No, you shouldn't avoid situations because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. That's not what you should be doing. That's not healthy. I need to fly under the radar. Don't make waves. I don't want to say anything that I'm not sure about. And I need to avoid difficult situations. I want to avoid conflict with people. These are just some of the self-limiting examples of toxic belief systems that people have that lead ultimately to their conversations in their head and therefore to the unfortunate behaviors that lead to failure, whether they're an athlete or they're an insurance producer or a financial advisor. It's all the exact same dynamics. So this first secret is to recognize your toxic self-limiting beliefs and self-talk. Self-limiting beliefs and toxic self-talk lead to these attitudes. You don't feel in control. You feel a loss of self-esteem. You're feeling overwhelmed by failures. You feel hopeless about your future. And then there's the dreadful procrastination habit. You find a million reasons, a million excuses to do things that you really didn't want to do, but they're easier than the things that you're supposed to do. So in short, I would say to you, what you're thinking today will determine what you will be and what you will be tomorrow. And you can control that. If you conceive it, you can believe it. And if you believe it, you can achieve it. That's really a key. Anything you conceive in your mind about change, if you believe it, and I'm telling you to believe it based on all the research we've done for 100 years in psychology and all of my experience for the past 40 years, somebody believes something in their mind. That's why I use hypnosis with a lot of the clients I work with. If you believe it in your mind, you can certainly achieve it. Remember, sales disappointments are not caused by procrastinating or avoiding sales cold calls. They're not caused by fear of rejection. They're not caused by competition or direct sales via the internet. They're not caused by lack of product knowledge, and they're not caused by negative stereotypes some people have regarding the insurance profession. A lot of people, a lot of insurance producers are really taken aback because they almost look at themselves as used car salesmen from the comments that they've heard from people in the past. Well, if it's not caused by any of these things, what are sales disappointments actually caused by? The answer is toxic self-talk about not hitting your numbers. You see, it's not the event of hitting your numbers that's the issue. It's the toxic self-talk about that causes the difficulty. It's toxic self-talk about prospecting, telling yourself, oh no, I have to do this again. I'll probably get rejected by 10 more people. It's the toxic self-talk about thinking about direct sales and from carriers on the internet. It's telling yourself you can't compete with this and what are you going to do? It's toxic self-talk about the competition you have, even in your own office. I'll never be as good as she is, or I'll never be as good as he is. It's these conversations in your head that always undermine your performance. That's critically important for you to remember, whether we're talking about sales or anything else in your career or anything in your life. If you're having arguments with your significant other, it's the conversations you have in your head about what's going on that's causing the problem, not what's going on. This has been one of the most remarkable discoveries in the field of psychotherapy, for example, in the last 50 years. It's not the events that cause issues. It's not the events that cause emotions. It's what you say to yourself about the events, these internal conversations. And that's what we're addressing on how to recognize them and eliminate them. Reminder, this you all know, but I just want to remind you, a successful salesperson's self-talk is always centered on the needs and wants of the client, not of the salesperson. What's in it for the client? That's what the client's thinking about. Why should I listen to this person? What's in it for me? So you need to be thinking about how can I help him or her to relieve their fear or anxiety? What keeps them up at night? In what ways can I be of service to this client? How will my product or services benefit this client? What's in it for this client? If this client was my best friend or a valued relative of mine, how would I advise him or her right now? If you use that little mantra in your head, you will stay on target with people because it's all about them, not all about you. By the way, a lot of that has to do with what we call active empathic listening. It's a whole subject of another webinar. I've got a section in my book on it. It's another thing that we could teach you to really listen to people, to make sure it's all about them and you're focused on what they need. So once you develop healthy self-talk, it leads to these attitudes. You feel in control. You feel a higher sense of self-esteem because your self-talk is healthy. It's not knocking you down. You can embrace mental toughness. Many of you have sent in the past for my mental toughness routine. By the way, if you haven't, you can email me and I'll send that to you. But my mental toughness routine is better if you have self-talk, a healthy self-talk, then you can be mentally tough. You feel hopeful about the future. And it's always remember this, when you're thinking in a healthy way, you can do the hard thing first and reward yourself later. What do I mean by that? Go back to high school or college. Remember how easy it was to find something to do instead of your homework? Oh, I'll do it later. And then later becomes much later. And by then you're tired and you rationalize not doing it because you made a mistake. One of the biggest lessons to learn in life is do the hard thing first and then reward yourself after. So make sure you do the hard thing, make your prospect calls, and then you can reward yourself by playing a game on the computer if that's what you like. I do that, so that's why I thought of that. And always do the hard thing first, and it's much easier to reward yourself later than trying to do something to distract yourself and getting to the difficult task afterward. Let me stop for a moment. If there are any questions right now, go to the Q&A and see if I can find those questions. Just go to the Q&A and I'll answer any questions for you right now. Okay, nothing yet. Wait a minute. It looks like somebody has a question. Wait a minute. All right, here's the question. Dr. Jack, I understand there are 3 types of proven psychological secrets for quickly supercharging sales success. But how does one practice these skills to adapt them? That's a good question. I'm going to talk to you about the skills, but obviously it takes practice to do these things. And I'll talk to you about the masterclass that I'm going to have that will actually give you a template for practicing it very simply. And also you can get coaching for that from me. You can go to my course and do that, but those are some of the ways that those things can be taken care of. It's really a good question to ask at this point. All right, now, what's the second secret? Well, the first secret is recognizing these kind of trigger thoughts that get in your way. But the second secret is how to get unstuck and change those self-limiting beliefs into healthy, self-confident, success-producing beliefs. So the first one is I can be successful by practicing healthy self-talk. I have accomplished my goals in the past and I can again. I am in charge of my mindset and I can change it. These are healthy, affirmative kinds of self-talk. I choose to remove myself from negative influences around me. Think about that. People who are negative around you. I can empower myself to achieve much more than I've achieved now. I can empower myself by achieving much more by really believing in my abilities. And I am in charge of my self-image, which empowers me to either success or failure. Keep that in mind. My self-image empowers me to either success or failure. How do we do this? What are the simple steps for changing your toxic self-limiting beliefs and self-talk? So here's a process that you can actually go through. And by the way, everyone will get a link to this recording, so you don't have to take notes now. You can always come back and go through this again. I'll be happy to send you the link when you send me an email. I do want to get to, there seems like there's another question right now, so let me see what that is. Is this similar to Maxwell Maltz's cybernetics? Absolutely similar. Robert, I'm glad you read that book. It's a wonderful book. It's an old book, but it's a fabulous book. A lot of this has taken place there, but what I'm talking to you about are things we've discovered much since then. So Maxwell Maltz's Psycho-Cybernetics was a wonderful beginning book, but what I'm talking to you about are things that we've discovered in the last 15 years in the field of psychology and psychotherapy. Thank you very much for that question. So here are the 5 simple steps for changing your toxic self-limiting beliefs and self-talk. Step 1, first of all, you have to recognize when you have a trigger thought that's causing you anxiety or fear or avoidance or whatever the negative emotion is. So I've given you 3 examples here. If a client is short with me or cancels an appointment, it must be because of something that I've done or didn't do. That's something a lot of people think about. Here's another one. Because I failed with this client, I'm afraid I'll keep failing. And a third one, my cold calls today led to nothing positive. I feel like a complete failure. These are some examples of common toxic, poisonous, self-limiting beliefs and self-talk. So the first step is to recognize when you have those thoughts. Step 2 is to stop the thought dead in its tracks. Here's how you do that. You get yourself a number 64 rubber band, the kind that comes in the mail. They're little fat rubber bands like this, and you slide it on your wrist. It fits loosely on your wrist. And as soon as you recognize that you're engaged in one of these negative, self-defeating kinds of self-talk, you snap the rubber band as many times as it takes to stop the thought. There's a little pain involved, which is what you're trying to do to your self-conscious mind, so you'll stop the thought. And then you say to yourself, stop these silly, self-defeating, irrational thoughts. You keep doing that to stop these thoughts whenever they appear. That's step 2. Step 3. Relax yourself now. You can do all this in the car, by the way. Whenever these thoughts occur to you, take some calm, centering breaths. And here's how you do that. You breathe in through your nose to the count of 4. You hold it for 4 seconds, and then a big exhale to the count of 7 out through your mouth. Let's practice it now. I'm going to count it for you. You may want to fold your hands over your stomach, because the right kind of breathing is when you breathe in deeply, your stomach should be moving out, and when you breathe out, your stomach should be coming back in. So here we go. Breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, what I did was I forgot to have you hold it for another 4 seconds. Let's do that again. Breathe in through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Big exhale out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. And again, if your stomach is not moving and the only thing that's moving when you're breathing in and out like that are your shoulders and your chest, then that's shallow breathing, which causes anxiety. This takes a little practice, but you will get it. Practice it sitting in front of the TV, wherever you are, just fold your hands over your stomach. Once you get it, you will get it. Step 4, it's time to modify the trigger thoughts that started this whole process. Recall these trigger thoughts that I gave you earlier. If a client is short with me or cancels an appointment, it must be because of something I've done or didn't do. Secondly, because I failed with this client, I'm afraid I'll keep failing. And thirdly, my cold calls today led to nothing positive. I feel like a complete failure. Here's how we change that self-talk for ultimate success. Here's some examples. If a client is short with me or cancels an appointment, it may have nothing to do with me or my approach. I will use my active listening skills to understand and move forward with the client. Again, active listening skills, we don't have time in this webinar to talk about active listening skills. Very important in sales, very important in relationships. It's something I can teach you. It's something in my book. It's something in the course. And certainly it'll be something in the masterclass, more than I can go into here. Secondly, because I did not sell this client, I have learned something that I can use from now on. There's another opportunity waiting for me just around the corner. That's very important for you to realize. There's another opportunity waiting for you just around the corner. Let go of this, learn from it, let go of it, and move on. With athletes, I did this all the time. They would be stuck on something that happened that they weren't happy about. And I would say, let it go. There's another opportunity waiting. If you hang on to the thing you're not happy about, it'll mess you up with the next opportunity because your mind will be frazzled thinking about those negative, self-limiting thoughts. And the third example, I'm disappointed that I didn't get any new leads from my cold calling today, but that does not make me a failure in any way. This is a numbers game, and I never know when that next call will pay dividends. Let me give you an example from yesterday with an insurance producer who's a client of mine. We were working on him making cold calls. He said, I made 7 cold calls and nothing happened, but Dr. Jack, you told me to keep persisting and get at least 10 in. The 8th cold call, I landed a big insurance deal. If I hadn't learned what you told me, I would have probably stopped at the 7th and said, I'll try this again tomorrow. Am I glad that I persisted? And step 5, we anchor this whole thing by taking more calming breaths. More calming breaths. Again, breathe in through your nose, hold it for 4 more seconds, exhale for 7. So you've had a 5-step program. You recognize the trigger thoughts, first of all. The next thing you did was you snapped the rubber band to stop those thoughts. Then you did some breathing so that you could calm yourself down. And then you changed those thoughts into healthy, nutritious self-talk. And finally, you anchored it with more calming breaths. Any questions about this? There is a question that just came in. It's not about this, but it's a question I'll be happy to answer. Dr. Jack, you said that everyone has the potential to be a sales winner. How do you know that? How do I know that? Just like how do I know that every athlete has the potential to be a winner? From all the research that's been done in this area about the mindset, that everyone, you may not be the best, you may not be number 1, but you have the ability to live up to your potential. That's what we're really talking about. If I can teach you how to change your mindset, you can certainly release the potential that lies within you to be the best that you're capable of being. So thank you very much for that question. Here's secret number 3. Secret number 3, and I have a whole webinar that I've done on this, so I'll just go through this briefly with you today. Again, this is information that is based on 40 years of psychological research, not only with insurance producers, but in every industry you can imagine. These 40 years of psychological research have shown this to be absolutely positively related to sales success. The most powerful determinant of producer success is maintaining an optimistic explanatory style for lousy outcomes or setbacks. That means when you have something disappointing that happens to you, how do you react to that inside your head? Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? But I need to explain what optimistic and pessimistic means. An optimistic outcome is when something unfortunate happens. I call them lousy here. How do you persevere and remain resilient under this adversity? How are these setbacks looked at upon by you? Are they looked at upon by you as an absolute overwhelming disaster or something manageable that you can overcome? And you can learn how to do this, by the way. The majority of people are pessimistic, not optimistic. And I'm sure if you're watching this webinar, it's because you've suffered from pessimism in the past. This can all be taught and changed. Okay, so here's what a pessimist does when they have a lousy outcome. They say, this was my fault. They tell themselves, this was my fault. This is probably going to continue to happen to me. I don't know what to do about this or how to fix it. I feel helpless. And this is just one example of how I screw up in life. So those are examples of how pessimists talk to themselves when unfortunate things happen. What does the optimistic person say to him or herself when negative or unfortunate things happen? You say, well, this was a fluke. It's an exception to the rule. I can move on. This won't happen again. This is a temporary setback. I'll bounce back from this. And finally, I had difficulty with this, but there are so many other areas in my life and so many other examples of success in my career and other areas that I feel really good about myself. So you see the difference between optimists and pessimists in terms of how they look at negative events? The optimist is the optimistic explanatory style leads to success. The pessimistic explanatory style leads to failure every time. Let me give you another example of this because this is such an important ingredient for you. What about when good things happen? When good things happen, pessimists look at it the following way. Instead of agreeing that maybe they did something right, they say, I was lucky this time, or I was in the right place at the right time. This was a fluke. I can't do this consistently. And this good outcome is unlikely to affect other areas of my life where I still screw up. That's how pessimists look at good things that happen to them, that successes that happen to them. But optimists, when they have something successful and something good, they say, good things happen to me because of my skills, my work ethic, and my motivation. Good things are going to continue to happen to me in the future. And this is just one example of the many areas of my life where I have the skills and talents to be successful. So ladies and gentlemen, look at this difference between how someone with an optimistic view explains negative outcomes and positive outcomes versus the pessimist. And as I told you, 40 years of research have shown that there's a huge difference in the success between the optimistic explanatory styles and the pessimistic explanatory styles. And again, it all reverts back to the conversations in your head. Any questions about that? Here's a question. Dr. Jack, I hear what you're saying about pessimism and optimism, but it's not easy to change this overnight. No, it's not. And there are books written on this. There's a book by Seligman who invented this whole thing and did all the research. Seligman wrote a book called Learned Optimism. And that's what I teach in some of my workshops that I actually go into insurance agencies and advisory businesses and teach how to develop this optimistic style. So this is a learned skill. You weren't born being a pessimist, that you learned how to be a pessimist by role modeling other people in your life or other people you work with, and then you just kept reinforcing that behavior. When you don't have to become pessimistic, you don't have to maintain pessimism, you can change all of that. So thank you for that question. Remember my client Steve? He took charge of his self-talk. He recognized his toxic self-limiting beliefs. He changed them, and this led to a renewed sense of self-confidence. It led to him having optimistic expectations about future success, and he kept having more success. And he gained the trust of new clients and closed much more business by just following this blueprint for success. So let's tie this all together. I call this the 3 R's for consistent success. This is what we call your performance IQ. Number 1, recognize your toxic trigger thought patterns. Number 2, reframe or change your self-talk by choosing to think differently. You can use it's actually 5 steps that I gave you today for ultimate success. You can stop setting yourself up for failure, and you can create new thinking habits. Finally, re-energize yourself with optimistic conversations in your head. Now, it really all starts with recognizing your self-limiting beliefs and your toxic self-talk. It's determined by the kinds of conversations that you have with yourself about events. The key is recognizing and eliminating the toxic thoughts and replacing them immediately. And all it takes is practice, like any other skill, like any other athlete. It just takes practice. You can definitely do this. There's no question in my mind you can do this. You just have to convince yourself you will. And when you get off of this webinar, you don't go back to your old habits. You say, there's something to what Dr. Jack said. I'm going to review this. I may call him for a free consultation to ask some questions about it. I'm going to get a copy of this. I'm going to look at his book. Start making changes today, and this can be your pivot point for success right today. Now, I mentioned before there's a masterclass that follows this that I do that really gives you templates that you can actually fill in to actually follow this process and change your habits. But this flash sale is coming up through the Insurance WebEx on July 1st, where you'll be able to get all different kinds of products from all of the mentors at a markedly reduced rate, and that's going to include my masterclass, How to Win the Inner Game of Superb Sales Success. So I want to make sure that you pay attention, look for that list coming out. It'll use my proven 6-step secret for overcoming every psychological obstacle. It goes into much more detail than I was able to do today. Now, I talked to you before, ladies and gentlemen, about my unique client event, which is really aimed at driving new clients directly to you because it's a highly valued program called How to Live Much Longer Than Your Kids Hoped You Would. Who wouldn't want to come and hear a nationally renowned psychologist teach you how to live longer and better? So it packs the house. Everyone wants to invite a guest because they're coming to a free consultation on how to live better and longer. And guess what? In most cases, you, the insurance producer or advisor, don't even have to pay me to do this. How is that possible? Well, just like with everything else, you can email me to get more information on that and learn all about it. So here are the things you can do. You can email me at drjack@advisingtheadvisors.com. You can call me at 949-510-5660. If I'm not available, just leave your name and number slowly on my confidential voicemail. Here are some other goodies for you. If you want to receive a recording of this webinar, just email me and ask me for the link to do that. If you want to schedule a complimentary confidential chat with me, that's a really good bargain here. There's where you can go to my calendar and book it, bit.ly/free chat with Dr. Jack, drjack. If you want to order my complimentary book completely free, The Financial Advisor's Ultimate Stress Mastery Guide, email me, tell me you want the book, or call me and tell me you want the book. If you want to learn more about my unique client event that I talked about, if you want to learn more about the flash sale or my masterclass, if you want to learn more about my 12 continuing education game-changing online course, actionable skills to quickly develop the mindset of a champion financial professional, and you want to learn how to get a major discount for that because you attended this webinar, contact me. You can read more about the course at www.developthemindsetofachampion.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've given you everything I can give you in the shortest amount of time without having you fall asleep. So my goal now is to answer any final questions you have. If there are any other questions, please ask them now or forever hold your peace. Any questions at all, go to the Q&A. I'm seeing one question here. Dr. Jack, how do we do the confidential call? Okay, the confidential call is you simply have to go to the calendar and you can schedule it, or you can leave me a message on my voicemail. Just call my number at 949-510-5660. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been my pleasure indeed teaching you these things today and hoping that that this is going to be wonderful for you, that you can use this for the rest of your life. And again, contact me with any questions. You make the rest of the day a powerful, successful day and start raising that optimism level immediately. Bye-bye now.